So, Diary of a Gen Xer Part 2. Oh, crikey. Where to start? Did miss an important aspect of my childhood. When I was around 7 years old, I had an experience, an encounter. Well, not sure what you really want to call that. My sister had been doing some work stuff at school, and for whatever reason they wanted to see how the diet affected your urine, and for that I was her guinea pig. So it'd be a case of eat this, wait a short period of time, go and piss in this tube. I didn't think anything of it. I was only about 7. Anyway, again, the details around this are really sketchy. I remember which bedroom this occurred in. It was the bedroom that usually I shared with my brother. The walls were painted willow green, and for whatever reason my sister was in there with me, and she thought it would be a good idea if she put my head between her legs, and I'm sure I don't need to spell it out in too graphic terms, but I do have a memory of the texture of her tights on my tongue. I have subsequently found out, or been told by way of confession, that he went further than that, but I have no recollection of anything other than that. Anyway, yeah, that takes care of that, and it does, to a great degree, explain why I found it extremely difficult to form friendships, relationships with girls, females. They were something to be feared. Anyway, on a lighter note, so secondary school was not really a great place for me. I didn't have masses of friends, but I did have the same 4 friends then that really and truly I could say I probably still have now. 2 of us went to primary school together. Another one joined us at primary school, so there was 3 of us at the same primary. Shut up, Laurie. And again, we did stuff when we were at primary school, went round to each other's houses. Jack always had a better level of tech than the rest of us, so yeah, going round to Jack's house was a bit of a treat, because you could play on television. Yeah, there was a few other people's houses I went round to, but I certainly wouldn't have considered them to be close friends. Not like Adam, Jack and Nigel were. Anyway, so yeah, Adam and I were setted mainly together: English, chemistry, physics. Don't think Adam did geography. Not sure if he did history. I didn't take history as an option. So yeah, I think there's various other. I know Adam did typing, which we all thought was a little bit strange. But then he was always going to be a computer programmer. So learning touch typing was something that was going to be really useful for him. Yeah, so yeah, that's great. But most of our years in as teenagers were spent knocking about together. I used to either walk or cycle to Adams. If I was walking, I'd walk across the fields. It's about a 15-20 minute walk, maybe. Cycling, probably a 10-minute bike ride. Where Adam lived was probably what I'd describe as a little chaotic, simply because his dad was involved in developing computer software for a big travel agency. So what was once Adam's bedroom was very much turned into a computer suite, which yeah, some of the highest tech stuff I'd ever seen. Strange noises those things used to make. Anyway, yeah, so as young teenagers, we did young teenager stuff. We'd cycle into Braintree from where we were, go down to the Blue Dolphin, get maybe sausage and chips, egg and chips. Blue Dolphin, best chip shop ever. I know my my memory and my judgment is going to be biased, but it was good. It was good. And that place got knocked down, and they built George Yard. Yeah, not a great thing to happen. I want a B&Q, which is now B&M, something like that anyway. But yeah, so we used to cycle into Braintree, maybe go down to Video Trend or Choices Video, pick up some videos, take back to his place. He'd got moved into the room at the back. Kind of had probably describe it as a sofa bed, although it was only ever a bed when I went round there. He had a television and a video recorder, so we just lay around and watch whatever videos we'd picked up. It was kind of fun. As a special treat, Adam used to make what I can only describe as a dry grated cheese sandwich. No butter, just grated cheese. That's the best cheese sandwiches ever. I liked. Maybe because he made them, I didn't have to make them. So I've always said food prepared by somebody else is better than food you've had to cook yourself. Always. But yeah. And because you get a little bit older, start getting interested in bigger things. I know one of the ideas Adam had was to build a convertible Mini, and to that end, okay, I can't tell you that story until I tell you the other story. So when we were around 15, 16, probably 15, the parents had gone away for a week. I'll say Wales, but it could have been anywhere. And I went round and so, should we take my dad's car out? Ooh, well, I've never driven before. Okay. So, we've got the thing started, got it out onto the road. Now you have to bear in mind, at that age, you've only ever looked at people driving a car. You've never really paid attention to what's going on. Like having your hand on the gear stick, there's first, there's second, there's third, there's fourth, reverse is over there or over here. So when you're taking the car down the road for the first time, it's like, yeah, well, I've started off in first gear, now I need second gear. But when you look up, the car's not pointing where it was when you look down. That can be really scary. So you get used to that really quickly. And yeah, we did some up and down the road, turning around, going back, and yeah, didn't really get up to anything terrible. Yeah, that's illegal, isn't it? Not supposed to do that. Oh. If there's a statute of limitations, I'm pretty sure it's passed. But this is by way of a confessional, and maybe as a cautionary tale, as some things will come up later, obviously, when you get to a certain age. So continuing on in that vein, there was another time, different car. Oh, I know. Let's go back to the Pimlico. So yeah, the idea was to build a kit car, which was based on a Mini, the very old style Mini, and the recommended engine for this thing was a 1275 engine, but we didn't have one of them. I can't remember what the Clubman had in it. It might have been an 1100 or something like that. Anyway, Adam acquired an MG 1100 head to go in this kit car. The idea was, yeah, we'd strip apart this old knackered Mini Clubman that, yeah, disintegrated and rusted away, salvage any parts of it that were good, and put them towards this Pimlico. So I think as far as we got was engine out, front subframe off, maybe rear subframe off. That's about it. The rest of it went to scrap. Truth be told, the whole lot of it went to scrap, because that Mini never got built. Well, it was a nice dream. A set of, what do they call them? It's GB Carmona rally wheels. It's like 8-spoke, bowed spoke wheels that were going to go on it, and it was convertible. So yeah, look it up. Maybe still exists. Don't know. Anyway, so yeah, around about the same sort of age, we were going down to the Swan on a Friday evening. I didn't have a pot to piss in because I wasn't working, so it was whatever I could scrounge up. Maybe a couple of pints of Foster's. Bear in mind we were underage. Blah blah blah. So a couple of games of pool, tunes on the jukebox. It would have been all four of us, and yeah, there's some fun evenings. Too much money spent in the fruit machines. Never really anything terrible going on. There's two pubs we used to go into: the Yew Tree up near Jack's, or the Swan in Felsted. The Yew Tree was always quite a lot of fun. So John and Thelma were the landlady there, and they used to think it was fun, come the end of the evening, to lock in the underage drinkers and ply them with as much alcohol as he possibly could. So whiskey, vodka, oh god, what's that? Greek stuff, ouzo. So yeah, he'd give us any old thing, and it's like sport for him. So let's watch these 16-year-olds get absolutely fucking slaughtered. Excuse my French. And then more often as not, we'd end up down the graveyard, throwing our guts up in between the graves, staggering back to wherever. Many was the time I had 2 bicycles. I was on one and wheeling the other one. It needed to be 2 bikes got to somewhere else. This was all about the same sort of times that some of the things started to get a little bit more out of hand, serious wise. I remember there was one evening, there was one young lad, I'm not going to mention his name. He had a Mark 1 Ford Escort, old doggy old dull blue thing, but it was his pride and joy. And this one evening, he thought it'd be fun to take us out in his car. So him driving, the 4 of us, 1 in the front, 3 across the back, and he took us for a rag round the back roads, over around towards Great Leys. Then somebody needed to go to the toilet, and then somebody else needed to go to the toilet, and everybody needed to go to the toilet. So he's pulled over side of the road, and we did what you do, call nature, and then just without much of a word of warning, 2 people were in the car, and then roaring off down the road. Again, bearing in mind no driving experience, so he's managed to get from 1st to 2nd gear, screaming the nuts off this thing, absolutely screaming the nuts off. And this young lad who owned the car, he was pacing around. Oh, I can't believe he's taken my car. I can't believe he's done it. He's going off his rocker, and I think he's eventually walked off. Got really, really mad. And then we sort of heard the car stop making all this awful noise, and then start making all the awful noise again. It's like, oh, they're coming back. They've turned around. And there's one of those public footpath signs. It's like, public footpath this way. And as they're coming back down the road, I can see them coming towards me, and I thought, well, they're not going to drive into me. So I've moved to one side and stood behind. I've stood behind this public footpath sign. Adam's moved out of the way. Other lad, he's gone off doing his thing. So he's in his car. He's screaming down the road. He's not doing much more than maybe 20, 25, maybe 30 miles an hour at a push, but screaming his nuts off in 2nd gear. And I remember it's on a tight 90-degree bend with a track off the side of it, and as they're coming down towards the bend, I'm stood behind the footpath side, and the cars come sort of careening past me, and I just remember watching in slow motion as this thing just went into the ditch. As the car died. And then the realisation, oh, there's 2 people that are my friends in that car. Very quickly, forget what you're doing. You go over to the car, windscreen smashed, steering wheel smashed, glass everywhere, and a fair amount of blood, considering the fairly minor injuries. Now I think if I remember correctly, and I might not, I believe on impact Jack broke his wrist because he was holding onto the steering wheel that hard on impact into the far side of the ditch. Nigel had taken some glass under his chin and another piece down his nose, so he looked an absolute picture. Those scars still exist to this day. It's funny how a lot of the bad behaviour revolved around cars, because I think the next episode was Jack decided he was going to take his mum's XR3i registration number C183FOO. Ooh, crap, where'd that come from? Take her XR3i for a spin on his own. So he's taking it out of the house. His mum was away, or I don't know. He's gone down to the village, turned around and come back, and on the way back he's done exactly the same thing. He's got to a corner and he's just gone straight on. And I won't say the car was written off, because it wasn't, because that car went back on the road, and kind of as a punishment, Jack got a 950 Fiesta. So it's like, yeah, you're not driving mine, you can have that piece of whatever. So yeah, so Jack had the 950, and I think he was probably the first of us to actually pass his driving test. So of course he was a bit of a hero, and he'd come round and pick us up, and he'd show us how he could handbrake turn a Fiesta. That was scary, man, being in the back of a Mark 1 Fiesta doing 30 or 40 miles an hour down a track, and having him suddenly trying to lock the steering and pull on the handbrake, and the car just spinning round. Oh man, that was nuts. But yeah, I think he managed to just about get the hang of it. I think there was another Friday evening where, for whatever reason, they said, "Oh, we're going to take the Metro out," and this was Adam's dad's car. And again, for whatever reason, parents weren't around, but the car was there. So they've come round to call for me, and for whatever reason, I just said, "No, I'm not coming." It was a Metro van, so 2 seats, and then yeah, if you were stupid enough to get in the back, no restraints in the back. And I do recall about an hour and a half later, a knock on the door. Yeah, car's in the ditch. And then the local garage owner, Neville was his name. So he's had to tow it back to Adam's house. And oh god, did he absolutely tucked him up on the fee for the tow. I think even back then, we were talking 1980, 1986, 1987, 400 quid for a tow. Couldn't have been much more than a couple hundred, well, much more than a mile or two. I might have the figures, I might have remembered the figures exaggerated, but it was a lot of money, And the car got repaired, and eventually, once Adam passed his driving test, that became his car. But not before. He had a Renault 5. Now I passed my test in December 1987, and I guess kind of paying it forward, I used to sit in the car with Adam, L plates on. Back then we didn't have the restrictions you have now. You didn't have to be 24, you didn't have to be past your test anything more than 5 minutes. So back then you could pass your test, go round to your mate's house, as long as you had valid insurance, slap some L plates on the car, and away you went. You were a driving instructor, or at least somebody that passed their test that could supervise with driving. Yeah, that's what we did. Now, I do remember there was one really wintry day, a lot of ice on the road, and we thought it would be a good idea to learn how to control a skid. So Renault 5 was front wheel drive, but still rear wheel handbrake. So the whole premise of the thing was, you would drive down the road, the other person would yank on the handbrake, and you would control the steering, try and keep it in a straight line And I do tell you what, it was an invaluable experience, because the one time, not very many years later, I came round a bend, saw a car coming towards me, realised that I had to stop so that I didn't cross their path, and I put my foot hard on the brakes and the car started to slew round, and I naturally turned into the skid. So controlled it and didn't crash, which was great. So anyway, we did this maybe a dozen or so times each. It was quite a lot of fun. Probably didn't do much for the car. Anyway, so we all move on a little bit. So I ended up with a Mark II Cortina, which was a 1300 Deluxe Mark II metallic aquatic jade green. Now, my brother had a 16E. I might have covered this. Anyway, all the bits and pieces off the 16E went onto the Mark II Cortina. So it looked like a 16E Cortina, but it didn't drive like a 16E Cortina. Top speed, 85 miles an hour, flat out. And it took about a minute and a half to get to that. My brother once said to me, if you don't achieve 60 in second gear, forget it, because you lose so much time on the next gear change. Forget it. Well, I was up in the fourth gear before the thing even got to 60. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, there's things were moving on. Jack had started doing a plumbing course over at Colchester. Gonna say it was probably what is now the Institute. That didn't last for very long, and I think he did a short stint as a plumbing apprentice at Felsted School. Didn't like that, so he got a job driving a van, of all things, for Britannia Leisure. And I believe he had a piano in the back. He was heading between Norwich and Kings Lynn on the A47. That nice long straight road. But this Mercedes van, if I describe it to you, we used to call it a snub nose. Because it had this tiny little bonnet that stuck out, a little bit like the UPS vans that you see nowadays, or the bread vans that you'd see in a typical 1970s, 1980s series or movies, a little bit like that. So he's poodling along in this van, and there's a couple of youngsters pushing I'll call it a scooter, could have been a Vespa, something like that. Broken down, and he stopped, asked them if they wanted a lift. They said yes. So the scooter went in the back. The two then became fellow occupants in the front of this van, and off he went. Straight away, show off mode kicks in. So, I'm 17 years old, 18 years old, whatever I'm driving a van, look at me, there. So he's on this road. Now, say what you want about other drivers. When you get out into rural East Anglia, the driving standard really does deteriorate. I've actually had people stop on a roundabout to let me enter the roundabout. Yeah, can't fault them for their manners, but that's not how you drive. Anyway, so for whatever reason, there's a line of cars, and Jack decides he's going to overtake. So he pulls onto the other side of the road. You can see there's nothing coming. and he started overtaking. And he did say how many cars he'd overtaken by the time things got serious. May have been 2, may have been 3, could have been as many as 5 or 6. But then you can see there's a transporter, I believe it was an RAF transporter with an aircraft on the back, coming the other way. And he's started to look for a break in the traffic to get back on his side of the road. And all these people, they've all nipped up, so they're now line astern, nose to tail, nowhere to go. Now, for whatever reason, it's decided to go head on with this transporter. So at the last second, I believe he's sort of steered to the left, and he's sort of turned himself in the front, trying to get himself as far away from the lorry as possible. Absolute carnage. Absolute carnage. Van was a write-off. Now, to this day, I don't know what happened to the 2 passengers. I believe they were both okay. But obviously Jack was prosecuted for driving without due care and attention, carrying passengers in an uninsured vehicle, or carrying passengers uninsured in a vehicle for not in accordance with its purpose there, all of that sort of thing. But he then spent a goodly amount of time in Edith Cavell Hospital at Peterborough or Kings Lynn? Peterborough, I think. Long time in traction. Was told he wouldn't walk. I believe there was wrists, legs, maybe even ankles, hip. It's pretty serious. Very, very lucky to be alive. Had it not been for a passing nurse, paramedic, doctor, whatever, he probably wouldn't be. His heart moved within his chest cavity from the impact, and the first aid that he was given on scene saved his life, which I guess we're all grateful for. No, we are grateful for. So I had Jack in my life for a good number of years after that. Good number of years. Not all of it is chaotic. I'm glad to admit. But we used to go up and see him. This machine that he had his leg in, traction. It was like very much a case of, I can't come out until my leg will bend to this angle. So we'd turn the dials and try and help the thing along a little. He did walk again. Did walk without a stick. Was still able to be a mobile DJ and music producer, among other things. Father, husband, twice. I haven't seen Jack for a few years now, but I know he's still around. But we all kind of move on. I got my first proper job. I had decided to give myself the summer holidays. So when we broke up from school, 5th year, 1986, through to September 1986. No, I'm lying now. I'm a year later, 1987. So I did college. I left school. I did 1 year BTEC Business Studies at Braintree College. Nigel did art. It was short-lived. So we would get on the bus in Felsted, go by bus to college. Now, my first week at college, you start off with all the right ideas. Business studies. I wanted to learn how to run my own business. That was one of my plans. And within the business studies syllabus, you've got people in organisations, banking, insurance, information processing, and it was something other else. Anyway, the only thing I did any decent at was information processing. I didn't do very well with insurance. In fact, the tale goes, the first insurance lecture, Eric, the lecturer, turned up to, but I think that was the only one he ever turned up to. We would all turn up to the lectures, wait outside the lecture room patiently. You'd wait there for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then you'd realise he was a no-show, so you'd go off and do something else. And it became very, very boring very, very quickly. And I think in the entire year that I was there, we never had a replacement insurance lecturer. It's kind of, you're on a hide into nothing. And getting towards the end of the first year, we'd get on the bus, go into Braintree, go down to college, register, turn around, walk back up to town, get on the bus, go back to Felsted, and then I'd spend a lot of time around Nigel's house playing on the Commodore 64. Because we were young and stupid, we didn't know any better. So I dropped out. I think we both, Nigel and I might have both dropped out of college the same day. So you had to go and see the principal and say, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, all right, fine, if you're sure, yeah, off we go. Can't remember his name for the life of me. I think it might have been Welsh. So yeah, that was when I decided I was going to give myself a summer holiday. So from when I quit college through to September, which would be the natural start of going back to school or something else, I'll either get a job between now and September, or come September I'll join the Air Force. Now back then I didn't wear glasses. I still had decent eyesight, decent-ish.